There has actually been a study to determine whether or not women or men have the worst smelling gas.
They had 2 fart smellers who basically had to go and stick their face into a bag of farts and write down on a score of 0 to 8, 8 being nuclear. The answer was clear.
Today on the Gut Insiders, we are talking about something that we all do, but nobody wants to talk about it. Maybe not even admit it, thus the term silent but deadly. And if you smelt it, you dealt it. Today, we are talking about farts, my friends. Flatulence, gas, blowing it out your butt, whatever it is you want to call it. We are talking about that today here on the show. And why some smell absolutely atrocious, god-awful, take the paint off of the wall. And get this. Scientists, this is not a job anybody wants. Scientists actually have studied the smell of farts. They had people fart into a bag and then they dissected it bit by bit to figure out what makes gas so rancid. And walking us through this, I don't know, fortunate for us, but unfortunate study for them is Dr. B, the gut health MD, the guru when it comes to the gut. He's here on the show to talk about that. And if you are new here, man, this is the show where we bring the science, the laughs, and the wild truth about your microbiome. So be sure to hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff right here, and get your Gut Insiders hit wherever it is that you are. And with that, let's welcome to the Gut Insiders, Dr. B, the gut health MD, the author of Plant Powered Plus. What's up, my man?
I'm ready to rock out, and we're going to be talking about this topic of farts. And, before we jump into it, Chuck, I thought I would take a quick moment because I want to acknowledge our global audience, right? This is not just people in the US talking about farts. We have people in the UK. Guess what they're calling it there? Wind. Chuck, wind from their arse.
Wind from their arse. It sounds so much more, I don't know, dainty when you put it that way.
I mean, it's not the wind, right? That's a hurricane. This is a hurricane from your arse. All right. In Canada, they would call this, I'm just trying to relate to these people from across the globe, right? I want them to understand the same language so we're all on the same page, that we're talking about in Canada an air biscuit. An air biscuit. Drop an air biscuit.
Oh, my Lord.
Right?
Okay.
Or I'm half Irish. I'm quite sure that you're at least 100% Irish, and if not more. And if we were to go to your native land, you would call it a booter.
A booter.
Drop a booter.
Drop a booter.
A booty booter.
Man, that sounds so Southern. I like it. A booter.
It is kind of neck. Maybe it's Irish neck.
All
right. And if we were to go to South Africa, you call it a skeeter.
A skater. That's another
a skeeter. In Australia, it's a honker.
A honker.
And in New Zealand, it's a bottom burp.
A bottom burp.
So now that we're on the same page, we're ready to talk about farts. Let's go.
We all know what it is we're talking about here. And good luck getting through this episode without laughing, boys and girls. All right, so it is indeed time to call in the bomb squad here, Dr. B, because we're about to break down the science of breaking wind and go exactly and learn exactly what's inside the anatomy of a fart. And why, honestly, man, some of these things, they should be coming with a warning label. They are just god-awful. So, Dr. B, when somebody's blowing it out their arse, making an air biscuit, giving it the old skeeteroo, what exactly is coming out? It's more than just wind.
It is, yes. Well, I was a chemistry major in college, Chuck, and never did I imagine that I would be talking about the chemistry of flatulence. So here we are, but it's important to understand that 99% of that air that comes out your bottom is actually odorless. Yeah, the number one thing, much like the air that we breathe, the number one thing in your gas is actually nitrogen gas. Makes up 50 to 60%. That has no smell. You would never be able to detect it. Number two is hydrogen gas, 15 to 25%, which, by the way, might contribute to the flammability in addition to the methane.
All right.
So methane gas is the part that we classically think of as being flammable. I want to talk more about methane in a quick moment because it actually relates back to the microbiome. And then actually carbon dioxide is in there. Now, there's not a lot of oxygen.
Really? Because I've heard that a lot of farts are just air that you've swallowed. So I would think that the oxygen ratio would be higher than that.
Gas that you experience, bloat, can be the air that you swallow. But by the time it gets down to your bottom, that oxygen has been removed, absorbed into the body or whatever it may be. And ultimately, what we end up with is this mix of, like, again, 99% are odorless gases: nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, methane, and then a very small percentage of oxygen. I want to talk about the methane real quick because it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
If you ask the question, who were the first people that lived on our planet? First, not first people, like the first living organism of any variety, any variety.
Mm.
To the best of our knowledge, it seems that it's the archaea. Archaea are not bacteria and they're not yeasts. They're sort of like a hybrid somewhere in between, but in fact, they were here first before the bacteria and the yeasts.
Is this like that primordial ooze that you're talking about here?
What we know is that, like, roughly 4 billion years ago, 4 billion years ago, we can detect evidence of archaea. There was a dig in Greenland where they found this. There's also the belief that, like, they existed in, like, these really harsh places, like the hydrothermal vents at the bottom of our ocean, miles deep.
Mm.
So they're quite hardy. But here's what's interesting. About a third of us have them inside of our gut.
Wow.
And they are what we call methanogens because they produce methane gas. Now, methane gas doesn't smell, believe it or not. It's odorless. But methane gas pumps the brakes on your motility. So this creates a vicious cycle where people who are constipated produce more gas, they produce more methane. That methane actually slows their motility, which makes them more constipated, which leads to more gas production, which slows motility. So this is why people who have constipation, they all suffer with gas and bloating, all of them. And in order to address that issue, you have to get the bowels moving. But it's kind of interesting to consider that the methane is a part of that story. And a lot of that methane comes from these methanogens, which are literally the first settlers on our planet living inside of our gut.
So you say roughly a third of us have those? Is that
Roughly a
right?
third of us. And then you hear this, right? You hear this, and I just want to be clear on something. You hear this and you think, oh, well, why don't we just kill them? There are definitely people who believe that that's what we should do, kill them. The problem is, it turns out that they protect us from heart disease,
Huh.
which is the number one cause of death. So if you were to say, well, in the interest of less methane gas, let's kill our methanogens, I would be saying to you, you're increasing your risk of the number one cause of disease through your microbiome. So my argument is, don't kill the methanogens. Let's focus on getting you pooping and keep things moving through. Because if you do that, then this is a non-issue.
That's wild. I wonder where one would acquire these methanogens. Is it through food that we eat? Is it just like playing in the dirt as a kid that you just pick it up? Like, how does one acquire this? Because it just it boggles my mind that only a third of us have it. Right? That's still a large number of individuals when you consider what there's 8 billion people in the world. But like, how does one get the methanogen? Is it passed down through genetics?
You're asking one of the questions that we just don't have a great answer to, which is, like, where does the microbiome come from?
Mm.
And, like, clearly there are some inputs, like, for example, the first opportunity to really, really be exposed to microbes is passing through the birth canal. So during the process of labor, right? And you could bypass that with a cesarean section. And we know that children who are born by cesarean section have a different microbiome and they have different risks as a result of that different microbiome in terms of allergic disease and metabolic disease and things like this. Where does the microbiome come from? We don't have a totally clear answer, but we think that there's these inputs from our environment is the bottom line.
Well, let's draw this back to the conversation of the day, which is fart. Is it fair to say then, in some aspect, that whether or not a child was born via, traditional delivery or via cesarean section could affect the makeup of one's farts down the line?
Well, your farts are reflective of your microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
So, which we can dig into because there's actually a study from 1998 from a scientist that other scientists have called the king of the farts, and apparently this scientist accepts that name. All right, yeah, I mean they're
The king
proud of
of the
their work.
farts. I mean,
The,
God bless. Own it.
the
I
king
mean,
of
you're
the
the
king of the
Duke of
farts.
Dunk.
Look, it's an opportunity for learning, right? This is the academic person who has taught us the most on this particular topic. I mean, if we're going to talk about it, hats off. That scientist
Attaboy.
made a difference. We're able to have this conversation thanks to the king of the farts.
Here's your crown and scepter, sir.
All
Yeah.
right. But before we dig into that study, though, we have to sort of like lay the foundation because I said 99% is odorless. Well, clearly farts aren't odorless.
No, God, no, dude, bro. I mean, I've done some room clearing farts. I'm sure you have too. A lot of it depends on what I find is like what we eat. But like, if it's not, the methane per se, then what in God's name makes them so stinky?
Farts have like characteristic smells,
Mm.
right? There's like certain brands out there. How about you tell me the smell and I'll tell you the chemical that's causing the smell? And again, these account for less than 1% of the gas.
All right.
But actually, believe it or not, our nose is so sensitive to the smell of farts that like it doesn't take much and you're like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, give it to me, Chuck.
All
Give
right.
it to me.
Yeah, farts do have like a distinct odor. And it kind of reminds me of a game that I used to play back in high school where it was like you would try to guess what the person ate based off of their fart. And a lot of times we could be scary accurate. So let's start with like the what I consider to be the worst smelling of all, and that is just the pure rotten egg smelling kind of a fart. What's going
You
on there?
remember high school and someone would throw a stink bomb?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh
I have
yeah.
no clue where you even get that, but I'm glad I don't know because I probably would have been the one to do it.
You and me both.
Well, that's the rotten egg smell, right?
It is indeed, sir.
That is hydrogen sulfide.
Ooh,
Hydrogen sulfide.
all right.
Yeah.
Uh,
What else?
all right. The other one that I can think of really readily, it's like a cabbagey or a garlicky kind of a smell. It's more pungent, not necessarily going to like make your face melt off. It's not great, but it's definitely different than the rotten egg.
Yeah, so that's methanethiol, and thiol, not to get too nerdy, but in chemistry, that's a specific sulfur-based sort of attachment in organic chemistry, thiol group. So we have hydrogen sulfide, sulfur, and we have methanethiol, which is also sulfur-based. And then the third stinker, which is like a not as profound, but like a cooked vegetable smell,
Yeah.
is dimethyl sulfide. So once again, sulfide. So basically, what we're saying here, Chuck, is that sulfur is responsible for the smells.
Which makes sense because I mean we all know that sulfur does stink. So like, but you're saying that sulfur only makes up like a trace amount of the actual gas that's coming out, right?
Very small. Yeah, very small. But our nose is so sensitive that we can pick up that smell. Like the trace amount that comes out is parts per million. And our ability to detect the stinky fart, right? We're sniffing machines. We're like a bunch of hound dogs. Like, we can't smell much, but when we smell a fart, we know
Oh,
you did
instantly.
it.
Instantly,
Yeah.
bro. And some of
Yeah.
them are
And that's
really bad.
parts per billion. We can detect parts per billion with our nose when it comes to these sulfur compounds.
All right, here's a fun question, and this is a debate that I will admit that I have here in the Carroll house with my wife. Who's got the smellier farts? And I
Yeah.
know that there has actually been a study to determine whether or not women or men have the worst smelling gas. What did this study find?
So first of all, I'm quite sure. uh, Let me put it out to the listeners. Like in your mind, pop quiz. Who's got stinkier farts,
Well,
right?
but see, but like generally speaking, women do a much better job of hiding it. Okay, guys, like we own it, right? Because we're childish, we think it's funny. I honestly cannot remember a single instance of my wife farting in front of me unless she was asleep and didn't have control over it. She's
Look,
dainty like that.
it's entirely possible that she doesn't fart. Neither does my wife. But other than these two women, everyone else on this planet is ripping them.
Yeah, man.
So, what was interesting, so this gets back to this 1998 study published in the journal Gut, which is one of the top gastroenterology journals in the world. Like it's literally the top gastroenterology journal in Europe by the king of the farts. And basically what they found, they took a look and they had, I would never want to be this person. Like it doesn't matter if it's in the name of science. I'm not signing up to do this. They had two fart smellers. all right, who basically like had to go and stick their face into a bag of farts
Mm,
and come out and emerge and like write down on a score of 0 to 8, 8 being nuclear, 8 being like your nose hairs are singed. Okay.
mm,
You
mm.
had to score like how disgusting,
Could not pay me enough. Could not pay
how
me enough.
disgusting was that fart?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
mm-mm.
And so anyway, so they went through 16 people and it with the answer was clear from both fart judges. Women
What?
have stinkier farts.
Sh
Women have stinkier farts, Chuck.
There's no way. There's no friggin' way. There's no way. I honestly, like, cannot possibly believe that. Like,
Scientifically proven. They basically found the number one compound that you find disproportionately in women was actually the hydrogen sulfide, which was the first one that you mentioned, which is the rotten egg smell. Speaking of king of the farts, that's the king of the smells right there, the hydrogen sulfide.
yeah, man.
And women had more of the hydrogen sulfide.
How in the world is that how is that possible? Like, why? Do we know why that is? Why their bodies produce more?
Well, the study was done in 1998, so we don't. This is predating the emergence of these microbiome technologies that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So you can't really know because they didn't do a microbiome analysis, and unfortunately, there's not enough academics who are willing to like basically dedicate their career to farts. So there's not a ton of research that's happening in this space. That being said, there are other studies, Chuck, like to your point about men just not giving a flying, right? Okay. There are studies that have showed that actually the most likely to just let it fly and not even care
Mm.
are actually heterosexual men, and the least likely to detect whether or not they are the culprit are heterosexual women.
Hmm.
That was a different study.
That's weird. Well, those findings are not necessarily surprising to me. Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna throw this in my wife's face lovingly. I'm just say, hey, your smell worse than mine. And there will be a hot debate. I may wind up sleeping on the couch tonight. That's okay, but it's in the name of science. Now, what can
So
we do to get
time out, time
academia
out, time out. Throw it in her face. Hot, hot debate.
politely?
Chuck, what are we doing here?
Politely, I just,
You mean just speaking, please.
right.
Not a bottom burp.
Or an air biscuit, whatever. Well, now you're giving me another idea that will definitely make me wind up on the couch, if not the hotel down the street. But anyway, like I'm dead serious. Like I would be very curious, like if people could, in a safe way, remember, kids, this is a safe space. Put in the chat. Put in the comment below whether you think men or women have the worst smelling fart. And like this was just one study. I do think that we need academia to like rise up to the occasion and do some more. So, let's get, these Ivy League dollars, really doing some work for the good here. Like
I'll tell
study
you
this
what,
up.
I will make a promise to our listeners that if we get to 1 million followers on YouTube, we will fund the study ourselves for farts. So this is
Ooh.
this is yes, we're laying down the gauntlet. Here we are in the very beginning. And if you stick with us and we get 1 million followers on YouTube, we will pay for a study to study farts.
Okay. Now, if we get to 2 million, would you be willing to be one of the judges in said fart study? 2
Oh,
million.
dear.
2
I mean,
million.
there's a price for everything, Chuck, but you're pushing it there, buddy.
I'll tell you what, we get to 2 million,
This
I'll do
feels
it.
like a disgusting version of indecent proposal right now.
But it's in the name of science, sir. It's in the name of science. Take one for the team. I will tell you this much right now, brother. You get us to 2 million, my friends. You get us to 2 million. I will readily volunteer this sniffer to go directly into some fart bags and judge it. I will judge it like it's the Olympics in a figure skating contest. I will
Oof.
judge the hell out of
Ooh.
these farts.
I'll tell you what, you're more comfortable in your own skin than I am. I'm not sure that I'm ready for this, but I'll tell you what, I honor your commitment to the process. And if we get to 2 million and you're doing it, I guess I would have to do it too.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Way to take one for the team. Way to take one for the team. Really really quickly, before we move on, because I want to know like what foods actually produce the most gas. I want to know like what makes the fart sound like a fart, because we know the term silent but deadly, but then sometimes you get some real clappers back there that smell just as bad. So what's going on?
Making it clap. Um, all right. Well, the thing is, Chuck, that the sound has nothing to do with the constitution of the gas, right? So we've been focusing on the constitution of the gas. But what does impact it is like think of a not to like put too much of a visual to your arse and your arsehole, but like think of a trumpet reed, right? Like how does a trumpet or like a different air instrument, how do they make sound? It's the vibration of the reed, and it's the vibration of the arsehole and the cheeks that produces the sound. When you're a dude rocking a honker, this is how we land in that place of like making that loud noise. Okay. But volume does matter. So we've talked about like the constitutional makeup, hey, it's all these things, nitrogen and whatnot. What we haven't really touched on yet is the volume of the gas. The volume of the gas does matter because, like, look, if you're going to blow your horn, if you're going to toot your own horn, there's a difference between taking a small breath and how loud you can project that noise against taking a big, fully lunged up breath and unleashing the kraken.
Hey, man, brother. Dude, you know, they sell these things on Amazon called discreets that will muffle the sound of your fart and filter out some of the odor because it's like a
I'll tell you
charcoal
what, when we
patch.
get to the advice part, because don't worry, folks, like we actually do have advice, not just jokes. When we get to that part, we could talk about that.
All right, fair enough. All right, let's go to the part of the show that you know this is just going to get clipped. It's going to become a reel. I want to unleash, as a matter of fact, for the very first time, like the fart fuel power ranking. So, what foods are the ones that give us the biggest load of honkers, of air biscuits, of wind? What foods produce the most gas? Go.
All right, cool. So you can't put them into the context of volume and stink at the same time. There's different foods for volume and there's different foods for stench. So, and to me, if I have to say like what's at the top of the list for stink, it's eggs and meat.
Hmm.
It's eggs and meat. Look, I'm not trying to pick on these things. It's quite simple chemistry. It's sulfur-based amino acids, right? That's where we get most of the sulfur is these sulfur-based amino acids, which lead to insane hydrogen sulfide production and the creation of sulfur reducing bacteria in our gut. You're basically making stinky fart bacteria. Truly. Truly, because when you expose these microbes to these amino acids that are sulfur based, what you're going to do is you're going to create microbes that know how to take amino acids with sulfur and turn them into stinky gas. Yeah, so red meat and eggs is, I think, the bottom line. This is at the top of the leaderboard for stench.
So red meat more than chicken, more than pork. Do we know why? Is it just like a more dense meat and it
It's the
takes
amino acids. It's the amino acid profile, right? Like not like everything has protein. You can absolutely just like eating plant foods will give you the amino acids. It's just in different concentrations than you would get in fish, in meat, in red meat, in chicken.
right
Like
on?
basically, it's a constitutional makeup of like what are the amino acids that are more densely concentrated.
On the egg part, it's like I remember back in the day being a big fan of hard-boiled eggs, and every time I would eat one, it was just like boom, rancid city out the backside. It was like it was the rotten egg smell, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the rotten egg smell is like appropriate. This is why we call it the rotten egg smell because we've made that association between the eggs and the smell, right? But the hydrogen sulfide, that is the specific thing that we're talking about that ultimately is going to like conjure up those smells. And so this is where like basically red meat and eggs are producing more of the hydrogen sulfide, and that's the reason why it's number one on the fart list.
We've got meat, we've got eggs. What comes in at number 2 on the fart rankings?
Yeah, so hydrogen sulfide might be the dominant driver of stinky farts, but there's these other ones that we talked about earlier. There are the two other sulfur compounds, which is the methanethiol and the dimethyl sulfide. And actually, when you consume garlic and onions, those are sulfur containing. They're so wonderful and healthy foods. But at the same time, that sulfur is basically going to fuel these two compounds, the methanethiol and the dimethyl sulfide, and that ultimately can lead to odor.
The fart fuel power rankings. Give me number 3. What's coming in there?
We're going in with the cruciferous vegetables, so like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale. And the issue with them is that they're also naturally high in sulfur compounds because these glucosinolates that actually protect us from cancer and are so wonderful, and I celebrate them. They are sulfur containing. And so this can create sort of a mixed bag of these what we call volatile sulfur compounds. Volatile is referring to the gassy element of it.
Volatile being the operative word there. All right. What's number 4 on the fart fuel power rankings?
Well, okay, so now that we've sort of covered sulfur, let's shift towards volume because if you want to toot your horn, you need some air to
Holler.
push out. And that's where beans, legumes, lentils, peas, this is where they come in because they're rich in fiber, they're rich in resistant starches, and they contain these things called galacto-oligosaccharides. And these galacto-oligosaccharides, they can be fermented and turned into gas. And that's not a bad thing. You're actually producing short chain fatty acids. But you must understand that when we say beans, good for the heart, the more you eat, the more you
Fart.
booter.
Booter. Air
This is
biscuit.
you drop an air biscuit. This is, beans beans are the brass band of farting. I mean, that's the bottom line. They bring the volume, but they don't bring the violence.
I like that. They bring the volume, but they don't bring the violence. All right. God bless you, Beans. All right. Give me a numero cinco, sir. What you got?
Well, if I'm blowing up legumes, then I must also blow up whole grains. So
It's only
that's going to
fair.
bring us to wheat, barley, and rye. Wheat, barley, and rye contain fiber, contain resistant starches, also contain things called fructans. And these can, once again, be fermented. They're good for you. They produce short chain fatty acids. But the bottom line is, once again, they don't make you stink, but they do, they just make you present.
Well, now, so you're talking wheat, barley, and rye. That kind of makes me think about, and you said fermented. So of course, I'm taking like right to beer, right? Uh, Beer farts were something that were much discussed between myself and a friend of mine back in the day. We've all had
So you
those
had a friend,
nights.
Chuck.
Uh,
You had
I,
this is just
I
a
had
friend.
a
This is
friend. I
yeah.
just one. It was the only friend I had in my entire life. I really lead a pretty shallow
Must
and
be me
sad
then. Must be
relationship.
me, Chuck.
Yeah,
That was me.
you're my boy, Monfrere. Anyway, so this unnamed friend and I were talking about, those nights as youngsters where we would overindulge and you just wake up in the morning with just like rancid gas. But these things you're talking about, the wheat, barley, and rye, not necessarily going to bring a lot of bad smell to them, but they just kind of make you present. But is there such a thing as the beer toots or the beer skeeter?
Well, yeah, there definitely are. I mean, I don't know that we even need a study. That's an N of one study right there. You just proved to us. What I want to bring people back to is that we have identified that this is a microbiome based process. So, keeping it real for a moment, this is a microbiome based process that we're talking about the fermentation of protein, high sulfur protein, right? That like it's not just fiber that gets fermented, protein gets fermented too. And that ultimately is what's producing those sulfur compounds. So, or we're talking about the fermentation of fiber. Once again, that's occurring through the microbes. Or we're talking about the production of methane, which is coming from the methanogens, the archaea. So this is a microbiome based thing, what you're producing, this gas. And if you change the microbiome, it's going to change the gas. And so the point is that like stinky farts the day after consuming too much alcohol, to me, are indicative of the fact that you've actually caused injury to your microbiome. Like I think that's sincerely what's going on there. Since I've just mentioned this idea of like fermenting protein, right? I want people to understand the fermentation of protein. I'm not anti-protein. I think that we need sufficient protein. But I do think that when we get into excessive protein and insufficient fiber, we actually can get ourselves into trouble. And because that protein will get fermented by our gut microbes and they'll produce toxic compounds. things that have been associated with increased risk of colorectal cancer, like ammonia.
Mm.
All right. And so it's important for people to understand that we don't actually want a microbiome that's fermenting and producing these sulfur based compounds. So to me, stinky farts are like, hey, we need to address that issue, right? Because that's indicative of a microbiome that's not in a great place and it's fermenting too much protein. So in that person, scaling back the protein, increasing the fiber intake would be the way to go. And we did an interesting study, Chuck, with our 38 Terra daily microbiome nutrition. And I feel compelled to share this more for teaching purposes, not so much to toot the horn of 38 Terra. But in this study, it was a 15-day study, and we were looking at like what's happening in the microbiome over 15 days of basically giving daily microbiome nutrition once a day, same dose every day. And what we found that was very interesting is that by day 5, ammonia levels were decreased.
Hmm.
And the reason why, so this ammonia, once again, is the result of protein fermentation, is that by day 5, we had actually metabolically flipped the microbiome. So the microbiome went from a metabolism of mostly getting its fuel from protein because there's not enough fiber to flipping it to where now the microbiome is actually producing short chain fatty acids from fermentation, which are anti inflammatory, as opposed to these toxic ammonia based compounds. So, day 3, there was already more short chain fatty acids. Day 5, there's this metabolic switch that takes place. And then basically by day 15, you have the emergence of these beneficial bacteria like Akkermansia, and you have lower levels of inflammatory markers. So, and it's all part of a bigger story because it's really cool to consider that the same dose was given every single day, yet the short chain fatty acid levels kept going up. It's not a one-to-one conversion. Actually, there's efficiency that was created, and this is a part of the story when it comes to gas. Is like we want to get away from the protein fermentation. We want to get towards the fiber fermentation because that's odorless gas, and that's going to produce anti-inflammatory compounds. And the efficiency that's created through consistency can actually make it so that we're producing less gas.
All right, so now you're talking like my nerd language, and it's got me wondering. All right, so in this study, did you control for diet? Was everybody eating the same thing, or was it just eat your standard diet or eat what you have been? Just make sure that you're supplementing with DMN.
All right. So the way that we approach this is we went and we worked with literally um, the best in the world when it comes to the simulation of the microbiome. And the reason why is because if you wanted to do a human-based study, you have to account for everything that you just described. What did a person eat in the last 2 weeks? What if they had a fight with their spouse or they got cut off on the way in? Right? What if they didn't sleep well last night? What if they had antibiotics a few weeks ago? All of those factors would basically screw up the results.
Mm.
We wanted to see in isolation, but using human microbiomes. So, like real human microbiomes, and basically following this protocol that is the best simulation model for the microbiome, where they're like literally giving digestive enzymes and all these different things on a daily basis to simulate what happens in the colon. But then, like, let's lock in on what is the effect of DMN in that context. And basically, this is what we found. That was our way of being able to get total clarity on what is the effect of using daily microbiome nutrition once a day at this dose, the dose that we recommend for 15 days. And that, this is the story. It's the entire science story.
So yeah, man, science is wild. The fact that we're even able to do that. I would love to just like spend some more time talking about that, but I know that we've got at least one more entry on the fart fuel power ranking. So let's just recap here. We've got eggs and meat at the top. That's like the deadliest of the deadly. Followed that by garlic and onions. Then your cruciferous vegetables, beans, lentils, and chickpeas at number 4. And we just spent a great amount of time talking about wheat, rye, and barley and bran at number 5. But at number 6, what do we have?
Yeah, so I mean, at number 6, we could talk about fruit because fruit, so like apples, pears, things like this. Not only are they high in fiber, they're also high in things like fructose that can be fermented. And once again, it's not going to necessarily cause stinky farts, but it will cause voluminous farts.
And there's a actually, here's a funny story about apples. There's a very well-known newscaster here in the Washington, D.C. area who shall remain nameless, not my wife, um,
And that you?
and not me.
Okay.
But
Okay.
she swore, well, there's your hint, up and down that her cure for constipation and to keep her, regular was to eat an apple a day, right? Because as
Yeah.
soon as she ate that apple, it was like tick, tick, boom. And she used to time, the eating of an apple around like when she would have a half hour break from having to, do a newscast.
If you just think about the framework of everything that we just discussed, you have the volume based stuff that doesn't smell, and then you got the stinky stuff. And if you want to drop the absolute, like if your goal is to be the stinkiest farter in the room, then, basically what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make fart pairings.
Oh, this could be a fun game. All right. So if we wanted to do a complete peel the paint off the walls kind of fart, right? What
Yeah.
is in this case the best combination of food that we could put in our bellies?
Yeah. So the best combination for stinky big farts is basically sulfur based plus fermentable. So like garlic hummus, or take those Brussels sprouts
Yeah, buddy.
and add in some bacon, or take those two slabs of bread and throw some egg salad in there.
Mm,
And you basically have set the stage for some fireworks.
dude, you can work all of that into a single meal and just kaboom. Wow. Can you
Oh, yeah. You
imagine?
could easily have an egg salad sandwich with a side of garlic hummus
Right.
or whatever it might be, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
then
Oh
go
my.
back to work.
So there we go. So those are the rankings right there. Now, I want to talk about, and obviously there is some sugar in the fruit, but like a lot of the foods that we eat these days have a lot of sugar added to them, and then you have like you know sugar alternatives, non-caloric sweeteners, sugar alcohols. I've noticed that, especially after my weight loss surgery. Like, let me just tell you a true story. Like, one of the foods that they wanted me to eat were like these nutrition bars that had a ton of sugar alcohol in them. And I noticed every time I would eat these things, and I was eating them like 3 and 4 times a day, like it was literally the worst gas I've ever had in my entire life. And I had it for like years and I couldn't figure out why. And like it got so bad that I had this reputation when I was covering the NFL and I was in the commander's locker room. I had the reputation of being like that dude with like the worst smelling farts in the history of ever, right? These are the same guys that gave me the nickname the weight loss champion, would also roast me for having rancid gas. And like it was like I know it sounds funny, man, but to be honest here with you, Will, like it was not a good situation, man. So it's like I'm wondering, like, what exactly do these sugar alcohols do to the gut, man? You're such a jerk. You're such a jerk. I'm having a real
That's
moment,
you. That's you in the locker room, Chuck, with a
dude.
bunch of NFL players.
It's so bad. Like it was so bad, and like we would be doing live shows. We'd
Oh,
be
there's Chuck again.
We'd be, like, out, and we would do the live shows with, players at, like, a restaurant or a bar, and, like, we've got the audience, the players are up there, and I'm just like, I couldn't hold it, and, like,
Rootin' tootin'.
oh my god, it's
All right.
just brutal.
Well,
Anyway,
yeah,
what was
so it's
going on?
interesting, those sugar alcohols actually two things that I haven't mentioned yet, but like they should be discussed are dairy products, which are high in lactose,
Yeah.
and then sugar alcohols, which you could find in what you were eating. They could be in artificial sweeteners, obviously. They could be naturally occurring in food, but if you're eating normal food, for most people, you're going to be okay. It's just that like they get concentrated in artificial sweeteners or ultra processed foods. These two things that are absolutely gas producing, and uh, people will who have digestive health symptoms, gas, bloating, loose stool, literally on the first visit, I would ask them like, "Hey, how much dairy are you consuming? Hey, are there any artificial sweeteners?" And you got to be careful because like you had the bars, and you would think, "Oh, the bars are fine, right? Like this is just these artificial sweeteners, 0 calories. It must mean that it's totally off the hook and has no issue or concern."
Yeah, man.
Right? Or like I've had patients where they're chewing gum and the gum's got stuff and they don't even realize. because they're swallowing their saliva, and the saliva takes this artificial sweetener down to the microbes. These artificial sweeteners don't get absorbed.
Mm.
So they are going, I promise you, they're going to come into contact with your gut microbes. And then they can get fermented too. And that can lead to gas and bloating. And so what you were experiencing was like basically you overloading your system with too much of these artificial sweeteners because they were 0 calorie. You're trying to lose weight. That's the problem you ran into.
So is it all of these artificial sweeteners, like all of the alls, sorbitol, xylitol, mannitol, maltitol, erythritol, like are all of them equally as you know uh, pungent or gas producing?
Well, it's the fermentation of them and that they can draw water in to the intestines, and that can actually lead to diarrhea in some cases. And they're not, I think to say that they're all equally problematic is would not be true. So, and also like there's some things like for example, monk fruit and stevia that aren't the same.
Right.
So, so that being said, generally speaking, if you see these alls, OL, on the ingredient list of a food or a product that you're consuming and you suffer with gas and bloating, I would consider eliminating it for a week and see how you feel.
Let's talk about like when gas is normal and when it's time to worry. We've all had those days where it just seems like we can't stop farting for one reason or another. Like I remember my father and stepmother on their honeymoon ate something, and my stepmother, may she rest in peace, got so worried with the amount of gas they were producing, she wanted to go to the hospital. And my dad had to like talk her out of it because God, what an embarrassing day that would have been for them. But like in all seriousness, like when is it time to worry when your gas is like that bad?
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is, aside from our two wives, everyone else farts,
That's a
and
fact.
like, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Scientific.
it could be Brad Pitt, it could be it could be Sydney Sweeney. Like, they're still ripping them. So, and the expectation, if they're like normal amounts of gas, 10 to 20 farts a day is typically accepted to be normal. And like occasional strong odor, like we all have that because you're all gonna like at times consume these sulfur-rich foods. I mean, I want more garlic and onions. If you're not gonna eat the garlic and onions on your plate, hand them to me. I
Right
want
on.
more beans. If you're not gonna eat those beans, hand them to me. These are longevity foods. They're good for the microbiome. But yes, they will also contribute to gas production. So like I'm a big bean eater, Chuck. The average American eats 6 pounds of beans per year. Per year.
6 pounds of
Yeah,
beans. That's it.
that's it. And like somehow some people try to convince us that this is the source of our problems. What a joke.
Uh,
Meanwhile, I eat like I'm sure there's weeks where I'm eating 6 pounds of beans in a week because, like for me, a typical lunch might be like grabbing the bean chili and adding a couple extra scoops of beans to the bean chili.
that a
Right,
boy.
like that's where I'm at.
That a boy. You
So
think you
I'm a
you
high volume gas producer.
yeah, yeah. Do you think you're above that 10 to 20 per day range? Be honest. We're in a safe
Yeah,
space.
I probably am. I probably am, but that's just the result. That's proportional. It's to be expected. It's proportional to the amount of fermentable fiber and resistant starch and fermentable substrate that I'm putting into my body. By fermentable substrate, I'm talking about like the other parts that can be fermented and turned into gas, and they're not bad. That's not an issue, and I'm super regular and thriving. Why? Because the fiber and the resistant starch are contributing to the health of my intestinal system, which is in a total rhythm.
Right on.
So anyway, red flags.
Yeah, red
So
flags.
like the things that you need to be cautious with are when there's a sudden change in the smell that's consistent or like the amount of flatulence that you have, but you have not changed your diet, right? If you can't explain why there's this change, then what's going on? If you're having persistent abdominal cramps, bloating, discomfort, chronic diarrhea, constipation, these are ongoing issues. If you ever see blood in your stool, if you ever have anemia that you're not sure where it came from, if you're iron deficient without a clear explanation, these are red flags, right? And if you're losing weight, you can't explain it. These are like, so to me, these are the main things that I would think about: chronic symptoms, intense symptoms, changes you can't explain. And then these classics of like weight loss, blood in the stool, anemia, fever. Need to be conscious of that.
All right, now let's do a segment called "Get Right with Your Gas." All right, so I mentioned the discreets earlier. You like put a pin in that boy, but let's do the official Gut Insiders list of the top 10 fixes for gases and odor. I mean, these are practical, easy solutions that literally anybody can do to help tame the flames of your air biscuits, your skeeters, your butt toots, whatever it is that you want to call it. I got to get that international list. I want to make it like and just have it right here in front of me. What's number one there, my man?
Yeah, bottom burps.
Bottom burps. There it is.
Yeah, bottom burps. That's New Zealand. Yeah, it's Chuck. You left out arguably my favorite, which is honkers.
Honkers
is pretty good. Yeah, honkers. It's a redneck fart. and I can't deny that I like wonder, like, are British people as amused by American terms as I am by the word arse? Because the word arse is great.
I mean, let's just go ahead and call up our friend Gemma Newman, and be like, hey, we're gonna say a word.
Arse cheeks. I got my arse cheeks.
Oh my God. All right.
On track.
Number one.
Stay on target.
Right.
Number one. Increase your fibers slowly.
Okay.
All right. Increase your fibers slowly. Your microbiome will adapt to this. But if you go from 0 fiber to a full-on bean fest, you're gonna have too much gas all at once. So it's better to build gradually. And like I was talking about with 30 daily microbiome nutrition, how the gut adapts, allow the gut to adapt, ease into it.
All right. What you got at number two?
Cut back on sulfur-rich foods, right? Because if they're stinky, then like these foods that you and I discussed earlier, like the meat, the eggs, garlic and onions, you don't want to get rid of them necessarily permanently. I mean, the meat and the eggs, it's up to you. But like with the garlic-rich foods, like you don't necessarily want to get rid of them forever, but the smell is horrible. Then we need to address this at least temporarily.
No doubt. Number three, sir.
Reduce sugar alcohols.
Amen to that.
Like you had your DEFCON 5 moment.
Bro.
Right. That's what I would have whispered in your ear if I were in that locker room and like, everyone's like kind of like, what's up with Chuck? Yeah. I would have come up to you and I would have said, Chuck, cut back on the artificial alcohols. The sugar alcohols, cut back, bud.
Yeah, I could have used that advice back in the day. I was hanging with jocks instead of MDs, man. Like it was just brutal. It was just brutal.
Yeah. Or jocks who are MDs. In theory.
Touche, sir.
All right.
Important tip. What you got number four?
Okay, so like a lot of what we've been talking about. So fructose, lactose, the galactans in beans, the fructans in wheat, barley, rye, garlic, onions, even the sugar alcohols. These are what we call FODMAPs. So you want to know like which are the ones that you have an issue with specifically, because like in theory it shouldn't be all of them. So that can be working with a dietitian. Identify which FODMAPs are triggering your issue.
Number five for farting. What you got?
Feed the good microbes. So this is of course done through our diet, but you can also fulfill this, as we discussed, you can fulfill this with supplements. Like you don't do supplements instead of diet. You optimize your diet, you take it as far as you can, and then you enhance it even further.
Number six.
Slow down when you eat. So eating too fast is going to lead to sloppy digestion. Your body wants rhythm, even your digestive process. You literally just slowing down the speed at which you eat is good for your gut, reduces symptoms, reduces bloating, and believe it or not, it's even good for your metabolism.
And I'm taking away from that the word sloppy in this context just sounds all the worse. You're talking about farts and then you throw sloppy in there. Ugh, sloppy farts. Number seven.
All right, so I would encourage you to skip gum and carbonated drinks, which like I heard that if you swallow air, you're going to fart. Well, that's true. Like the air that you swallow is going to come out one end or the other. You're either going to belch or you're going to have a bottom burp. And so, but the gum and the carbonated drinks are adding to the air that you swallow. So just something to be conscious of.
All right. Number 8. I've actually seen big headlines in the Washington Post recently about this one. What's number 8?
Move your body after meals. So like the simple act of taking a walk can actually dramatically reduce your gas and bloating. So, and we could call it a fart walk.
Yes, sir.
And that fart walk allows you to, as you're going, break wind.
Blows my mind that fart walks have become like mainstream. The fact that there was a fart walk headline in a major newspaper makes me laugh. Number 9.
I have to give credit to, gosh, and I'm blanking on her name, but we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
My friend who popularized this term. I'm not taking credit for fart walk. I'm just basically restating what she came up with because she's hilarious.
I mean, God bless her, man. Good sense of humor. An MD getting a fart walk headline. Let's go. Number 9. What do you got?
Take advantage of some of the tools that exist. So like that could be Beano for beans. It could be Lactaid for dairy products, right? These are like different options that exist in terms of helping you to process and digest your food.
This is where I would also add in terms of just like practical stuff. I was talking about discreets. I don't know if we can drop a link to those in the show notes, but these things are a game changer. One, they muffle the sound, and two, like they really do, man. They really cut down on that odor quite
What are
substantially.
those?
They're called discreets with a Z on the end, so you know it's fancy. They're like little green charcoal pads that you just kind of like, you slide them in your underpants, maybe between the cheeks. They muffle the sound. Discreet. It's great. Look, you laugh all you want, Sunshine. I've been through like 3 years of GI hell, and
So
these
this is
things
like
have
a
saved my
maxi
marriage.
pad for your arse.
Basically, yeah. I mean, not quite as thick. This would be for the light day, even though it's a heavy volume of gas. And I'm telling you, bro, it is a game changer. And sometimes on the really bad days, you put a second one up there and it's no problem. You got to go to
Look,
church and you're bloated. Let it go. Let it go.
Chuck, I don't mean to laugh at you. I'm laughing because I'm using one right now.
No, you're not.
I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I was like, that is a brave man admitting that right there.
I've been ripping them. I've been ripping them this whole episode, and you couldn't hear a thing, could you?
No. We should get a sponsorship with them. You're hysterical.
This episode is sponsored by Discreet.
It's with a Z. Hey man, look, it's just good stuff, man. All right, and what else would you add to that list?
All right, at number 10, locking it down here. We got to focus on motility. So we talked about how methane pumps the brakes on your motility. We want to keep things moving through. So, and this is actually like a big focus that's discussed in my new book, Plant Powered Plus, is about like getting into rhythm with our lives. Our gut thrives on rhythm. So ultimately, this is one of the opportunities that we have. If we can keep our gut into a rhythm and keep the poops moving through, then you're going to notice that your gas and bloating improve a lot.
All right, so let's just recap here. We've got increase the fiber slowly. Don't go from 0 to 80 overnight. We've got cut back on the sulfur-rich foods. Obviously, get rid of those sugar alcohols. You'll be doing, especially if you've had weight loss. And that's the thing. Hold on. That's the thing with the sugar alcohols. Because I have that altered anatomy post weight loss surgery. Do you think that like made the odor even more intense? Perhaps.
It definitely could.
Yeah.
And part of it too is when you have altered anatomy, it can lead to pockets of the microbiome that are like distinct to those specific parts of your anatomy. And this can lead to increased gas production for sure.
All right. Number 4, identify your FODMAP triggers. 5, get that good stuff in you, the good microbes daily. Highly recommend DMN for that. 6, slow down when you eat. Take your time, chew your food. Ditch the gum and carbonated drinks. Go for those fart walks, comes in at number 8. Number 9, use the tools that's available, whether it's discreets or Beano. And then number 10, support motility and balance, man. That's good stuff. I think that if you were to apply all of that, you'd be doing good. I want to ask you though, like we've talked on another show about the best positions for pooping. And
Yeah.
like, I know this is like a really random friggin' question, but like, is there an ideal position when it comes to farting?
Yeah, there is. There's a champion position for
No
farting.
way. No
Yeah, and if you
way.
happen to catch me in this position, I'm just sleeping.
Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Even though my eyes are open.
What is the champion position?
It's actually been proven. So laying on your left side. And you could bend your knees. You could bring your right knee. So lay on your left side and you could bring your right knee up and keep your left leg pretty straight. And you're putting yourself into the ideal position for farting. So, and this left-sided position, it's been proven it straightens out the rectum. It allows gas to slide through effortlessly. And this is the position that we would put people in after colonoscopy. But I'm also telling you that no matter who you are, if you feel gassy and bloated, this is the best position to get yourself into to relieve that gas. There's other options, like you could do a child's pose in yoga, like, just be careful if you're, like, in a class with other people.
Oh, no kidding.
You could do knees to chest, like, basically, on your side or on your back, just bring both your knees up to your chest. Or if you're sitting on the toilet, we talked about, like, a champion pooping position, and that is basically, like, raising your knees above your hips, right? Or getting into more of a ball crouched position, and that actually helps with passing gas as well, in the same way that it helps with pooping.
All right, all right. Well, here's a fun one. Here's a fun one. All right, let's just say like you've been trying really hard, not to fart, but maybe you're like on a plane and you're trapped there for hours and eventually you just have to let it go, but you want to make sure that it's a SBD, right? Silent but deadly. Like, is there a way to maneuver yourself into just the right position so that it is silent and nobody will
Okay.
have to know where the hell it is?
Yeah. How do we capture silent farts? So, like, I can't change the smell for you when you're already ready to go, right? But I can change the intensity of the noise. And so this entire idea of, like, leaning slightly to one side and lifting one arse cheek, okay, just enough to, like, have an angle, that actually is the approach, believe it or not. So when you, like, see people leaning to one side, that's what they're actually naturally doing, is, like, trying to release a fart without people hearing it. It creates less vibration. We were talking about, like, the reed of the trumpet and how that vibration is what produces the noise. So if you kind of create this angle, it reduces the vibration. And then the second thing is, like, you want to release it slowly. So, like, if you were to blow hard into the trumpet, of course that's going to make a loud noise, right? Whereas if you blew into a trumpet slowly enough, Chuck, I mean, in some cases, very slow. But if you ever so gently, ooh, all right, if it's slow enough, it will be quiet enough. No one will hear it. And the last but not least, the surface actually does make a difference. So you want to be, like, on a soft, cushy surface because that will dampen the sound.
Mm.
Whereas if you're sitting on a wooden chair, it's going to reflect the sound waves straight into your friend's ear, straight
Mm.
into your spouse's ear. They're sitting there, and it's like,
It's not
dang,
even that. Then
dang.
the vibration is just like carrying down the chair. They're gonna feel it in their feet. Everybody that's around you. That's a recipe for disaster, man.
Yeah, and this is like literally, believe it or not, this is science. This is acoustical engineering. When we're talking about, like, hey, if you have a preference, fart into a pillow, don't fart into a hard chair
Yeah, just make
or
sure it's
plastic.
it's not your wife's pillow, all right? You don't want to give her the old pink eye with the stink eye.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. That's beyond the scope of this conversation. But that being said, uh, I 100% would encourage all men to avoid farting on your wife's pillow. That's grounds for divorce
Good,
right there.
good practical advice there. All right, man. Let's take things home here, man. We've had a lot of fun today. We've covered a lot of science of like I mean, paint melting farts, rotten egg smells, all of that. What is the big takeaway in your eyes?
I mean, I think number one, I don't think it's fair to, like, completely vilify farting. I think we have to normalize this on some level because this is normal. It's normal. It's a sign that your gut microbes can be healthy and doing their job. They're actually fermenting stuff. Hopefully, they're fermenting fiber, and that's what they produce in the process of doing that. But the smell is the chemistry of sulfur, and it is quite simple. And so all three of the different smelly volatile compounds that we talked about are all sulfur based. So just be aware that when you got stinky farts, that's where the problem exists.
Right. So it's not necessarily about the volume of gas you're producing. It's about what's in that gas. What's the microbiome makeup in this case? That's what makes it lethal.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, your diet, your microbiome, your tolerance for how much gas you're willing to hold inside. These all can ultimately influence the volume, the smell. And so, like, beans may produce more gas, but sulfur-rich foods are the ones that make the gas more memorable.
Right. And then suddenly you wake up one day and it's just like chemical warfare out your arse. That's without a clear, reason. Like nothing else has changed. It's just your arse is acting up. Like that's when it's time to kind of like sit up and start paying attention to what your fart could be telling you.
Yeah, strong and evolving odors can offer clues to what's happening. Egg salad versus egg salad versus the cooked vegetable smell, whatever it may be. So, and if you're having these symptoms that we talked about, like pain, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, anemia, losing weight, basically my message to you is please don't ignore it. Please go talk to a doctor about that.
Right. Is it fair to say like every fart is telling a story? Like we're all Shakespeare when it comes to flatulence, and most of the time, it's a nice, easy, good read. But sometimes it
Oh
can be a
dear.
friggin' horror novel.
Well said, Chuck. All right, bottom line, listen to your gut even when it speaks loudly.
Let's put a pin in this episode of the Gut Insiders. And my friends, if you're immature like us, this episode made you laugh, or maybe you feel like you've learned something. Hit like, hit subscribe, share it with a friend or two. Have a giggle, have a gas, and we'll see you next time on the Gut Insiders. Thanks for hanging out with us and your microbes, my friend.
Thanks, everyone.